Among the many unsolved mysteries shrouding the history of Roman Britain, one of the most enduring and intriguing legends concerns the unexplained disappearance of the 9th Legion Hispana. Its sudden vanishing has plagued historians for centuries, leading to fruitless searches for the truth, while simultaneously serving as an inexhaustible source of inspiration for writers and filmmakers, spawning captivating narratives. During the zenith of Roman power, in the so-called Golden Age of the Empire when Rome's authority seemed unshakable, this renowned military unit simply dissolved from the annals of history, leaving behind no mention of its fate in classical texts or stone inscriptions. It is as if the legion never existed, its memory erased without a trace. The 9th Legion was truly a legendary formation, whose valor and resilience were repeatedly proven on the battlefield. Its soldiers bravely fought under Julius Caesar himself against Pompey in 48 BCE at Dyrrhachium and Pharsalus, demonstrating outstanding military prowess. Later, the legion actively participated in Claudius's invasion of Britain in 43 CE, laying the foundations of Roman rule on the island. Despite its glorious history, it suffered a catastrophic defeat at the hands of Boudicca's forces in 61 CE, yet managed to revive its former glory, triumphantly participating in Agricola's invasion against the belligerent Caledonian tribes in 82 to 83 CE, reaffirming its reputation as an unyielding fighting force. How could such a valiant and renowned military unit, whose exploits were etched in history, simply vanish without a trace, like a ghost, disappearing from all known records? Not a single written account, not a single carved sign remains to shed light on this grim enigma, leaving researchers utterly perplexed. Some scholars, attempting to solve this puzzle, hypothesize that the legion might have been destroyed in Judea during the Second Jewish Revolt, which raged from 132 to 135 CE. However, the only very scant, indirect confirmation of this assumption comes from the words of the Roman historian Cassius Dio, who merely noted in his writings that many Romans, moreover, perished in this war. It is known that the 10th Fretensis and 6th Verata indeed suffered heavy losses during this revolt, but no source specifically mentions the complete annihilation of an entire legion, making this version just one of many conjectures awaiting confirmation or refutation. In historical discourse, other opinions existed, with proponents suggesting that the 9th Legion was destroyed by the Parthians in 161 CE, at the very beginning of Emperor Marcus Aurelius's reign, when Eastern conquerors invaded Armenia. However, this event most likely refers to the 22nd Legion Dioteriana, which was consistently based in the East throughout its history. In contrast, the 9th Legion was successively stationed on the Rhine and then in Britain. In fact, there is no convincing evidence that the entire composition of this legion ever left Britain. Nevertheless, some researchers point to two specific inscriptions discovered in the Netherlands, which, in their interpretation, indicate the presence of the 9th Legion Hispana outside of Britain and its deployment on the Lower Rhine after 122 CE. Given that this legion was based in Britain from 43 CE and had never previously been stationed on the Lower Rhine, these epigraphic evidences must be dated to a period after 122 CE. This, in turn, implies that the legion was transferred from Britain shortly after 120 CE. It is reliably known that another legion arrived to replace the 9th in Britain in 122 CE. Thus, it is quite possible that the 9th Legion was indeed redeployed from the island, only to meet its demise in distant campaigns in Judea or Armenia. Two inscriptions found in Nijmegen, Netherlands, related to the 9th Legion Hispana, as well as tile stamps belonging to the same unit, strongly suggest the presence of legionary personnel in the Lower Rhine region between 104 and 120 CE. These findings do indeed allow for the supposition that the legion was transferred to these lands. However, nearby in Attica, an altar was found erected by Lucius Latinus Mesa, camp prefect of the 9th Legion. The fact that the dedication was made by a camp prefect, rather than a higher officer such as a legate or tribune, who would typically make such dedications if a full legion were involved, implies that Mesa commanded only a vexillation, a detached unit performing independent service on the Lower Rhine. Furthermore, there is another authoritative hypothesis suggesting that a detachment consisting of one or more cohorts of the 9th Legion Hispana was moved from Britain to Nijmegen in 113 CE. This event coincided with Emperor Trajan's preparations for his famous Parthian campaign of 114 to 116 CE. The main idea of this theory is that elements of the 9th Legion were called upon to replace troops that had been recalled from the Rhine and redeployed eastward to participate in Trajan's Parthian operation. Notably, around the same period, circa 113 CE, several auxiliary units were also transferred from Britain to the Lower Rhine, and it is highly probable that they accompanied the detachments of the 9th Legion. All these auxiliary units, arriving with the vexillation of the 9th Legion Hispana, returned to their previous positions in Britain by 120 CE. This suggests that by 120 CE, the detachment of the 9th Legion Hispana also reunited with the main body of the Legion in Britain, where the 9th Legion is known to have been that year. There is a theory that the 9th Legion may not have left Britain at all, but was completely destroyed by the belligerent tribes residing north of Roman territory. Two of the last known officials who served in the 9th Legion as tribunes Laticlavii were Lucius Cares and Lucius Saturninus. Lucius Cares left the legion in 121 CE, and his place was taken by Lucius Saturninus. Both of these men subsequently achieved high positions, becoming consuls and governing provinces, which seems rather illogical if they had ignominiously survived the complete annihilation of their entire legion. However, herein lies the main intrigue. After completing his service as a Laticlavius in the 9th Legion, Lucius Saturninus received no other official appointments for a long 25 years. Only then, at the age of 50, which was an extremely rare occurrence in itself, was he appointed legionary commander. Ultimately, he did reach the consulship. Nevertheless, it is evident that Saturninus's career was suspended for a quarter century. But why did this happen? What occurred during his service in the 9th Legion that caused such a prolonged stagnation in his professional growth? In contrast, the career of Saturninus's predecessor, Lucius Cares, progressed very rapidly. Soon after serving in the 9th Legion, he entered the Senate, became consul, and then governor of Arabia in 142 CE. All these significant events occurred long before Saturninus received any new official appointments. Consequently, something must have happened that caused him to fall into disfavor. Perhaps he either fled the destruction of the 9th Legion or was captured by the Caledonian tribes after the legion's crushing defeat. Historical chronicles indicate that along with the mysterious disappearance of the 9th Legion, 5 other auxiliary units stationed in Britain also simultaneously vanished from official records. These forces included 1 cavalry ala and 4 cohorts of light infantry. Notably, as with the aforementioned legion, there is no evidence indicating the transfer of these auxiliary units to other provinces or their disbandment. Their presence simply evaporates from the historical record, and they are never again mentioned by ancient historians or in surviving inscriptions. It is known that in the summer of 122 CE, soldiers of auxiliary cohorts stationed in Britain received honorable discharges after completing the required 25 years of service in the Roman army. However, it seems highly unlikely, almost incredible, that such a mass demobilization could have occurred at a time when one of the province's legions had recently been destroyed on its frontier. Military logic in such a situation would most likely dictate the reinforcement or consolidation of forces, rather than their reduction. Therefore, it logically follows that these veteran discharges must have occurred before the catastrophic event that befell the legion. One compelling hypothesis suggests that the Caledonian tribes, possessing a deep knowledge of Roman military cycles, might have been aware of the impending discharge of these experienced veterans. This information presented them with a temporary but significant weakening of the Roman military presence, which they likely perceived as an ideal window of opportunity. Such a moment could have been carefully chosen to ambush the Romans and finally avenge their crushing defeat at Mons Graupius in 83 CE. Moreover, amidst the active construction of the new Hadrian's Wall, this specific time might have been viewed by the Caledonians as their last, desperate chance to strike before their lands were definitively confined and their freedom curtailed. The officers leading the 9th Legion were well aware of the new emperor's strategic directives. Hadrian, recently ascended to the throne, was a staunch proponent of strengthening and stabilizing the empire's borders, rather than further expanding its territories. In light of such a policy, one theory posits that the 9th Legion, along with its auxiliary units, might have been deceived by a tempting offer of a long-term peace treaty with the Caledonians. Lured deceptively far north, the legion, according to this version, fell into a treacherous ambush and was completely destroyed. However, the legion's second-in-command, Lucius Saturninus, miraculously survived this catastrophe and managed to escape back to Roman positions, only to spend the next 25 years of his life in deep disgrace. Such a tragic scenario is merely one of numerous hypotheses attempting to explain the disappearance of one of Rome's most celebrated and powerful legions. To this day, no eyewitness or historical document has shed light on the true events that led to its demise. Thus, in the absence of reliable information, researchers and historians are left only to speculate and theorize about the fate of this legendary military unit.